Good morning and welcome to my workshop. This is called Let's Write a Grant. And before we start, how many of you in here have written a grant? Okay, a couple people. How many have always wanted to write a grant? I'm one of those weird people, and my coworker here, Leslie, will tell you I love writing grants. I think it is a phenomenal tool to have. And I like that when you're writing a grant, you are telling a story. You are telling somebody who doesn't know where Norman, Oklahoma is about your project and seeing the project through your eyes. And that's not an easy thing to do because I was a grant reviewer for the Illinois Department of Education and for SAMHSA, Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration. And you get all these applicants and you want to fund them all. You do, because it's like, oh my gosh, that's down in Ohio. I wouldn't they need the money to do this. But when a reviewer is looking at your grant, there's so many things that go into it. A lot of times they will put grants through a computer program and look for certain words. It's kind of a technical skill, but once you get it, once you learn it, you'll always have it. It's just great. So I work for the Oklahoma State Department of Health, and this is our vision, mission, and values, leading Oklahoma to prosperity through health. And all of the programs in the health department, that's really what our goal is to have all Oklahomans have access to good health care. So what are the learning objectives? Understanding grant writing and the fundamentals, how to research, to look for grants you may want. You gotta know the sneaky hiding places where they are to look for grants. Learn the types of grants. There are different types. There's like foundation grants, federal grants, state grants. Some local cities and municipalities have grants. What are the funding sources? Where can we go to find money? That's always like, where's the money? Where's the money? And there's considerations for applying for a grant. So before I go to the next slide, what might be a consideration for a grant?
People served in your area.
People serve, yeah. That there's a particular population, or there's a group, or there's the neighborhood even to go to that level that you want to write a grant for. Absolutely. Who you want to serve? Why?
Do I have an idea of what to do?
Do you have an idea of what to do? Absolutely.
On fund.
So are we ready? I mean, you got to read the notice of funding completion. So that's called a NOFO. NOFO is the notice of funding opportunity. And those come out from federal grants. I can't even say the name anymore. CDC, SAMHSA, HRSA, those big federal places, NIH. I'm a little unclear right now what grant making is going to look like from our federal partners. I still think there'll be grants, but I think it's going to be a lot different than how we've done it in the past. Learn about the funding organization. What type of fund? Like, usually for those freedom of information, you can see what applications people have submitted. If you want to read it, you can ask for those. The funding person. Relationships. What are the partners of this proposal? Who are you working with in your community? Because if it's the community-based project and it's a organization that's in Oklahoma City, like, what do you know about that community? That's what I would ask as a grant. Like, you're talking about Ada, Oklahoma, but it doesn't look like anybody in Ada is involved in this. Clarity. So we have to make sure our goals and objectives are clear. If the grant reviewer has to question or insert information, make something up that's not in your grant application, hi. No, you're fine. We don't want them to get. We want to give them all the information we can in that application. So without having ever met your organization or met you or the other grant writers, they're like, yeah, I want to fund it. They've got a good plan. Concise. You think all application questions directly. There was a grant application once where they changed the font. It was like, use this font, this spacing. And a lot of people didn't read that and they just did regular point spacing. And those got sent back right off the top, because people didn't pay attention. You think that's a small thing to look at the font and the text size, but that's their thunder. So they get to say how, ridiculous some of these things are.
Do they do that more now that you said they run it through?
Yeah.
So that's why they have to be.
Yeah, I think so, so that that algorithm will pick them up. But yeah, and because we wrote one, oh gosh, it's been years ago, and we had done the whole thing. And so as a practice, we would go back to read the instructions one last time to make sure we got everything. And sure enough, it was the spacing and the font. So we had to go back and change. Luckily, it's like you can do that pretty easily now. But compelling. This all comes back to storytelling, and that's what I like about great writing is telling a story. And it makes the reviewer want to invest in you in your project. There's been some as a reviewer that I could see the vision. I'm like, I know this is what they're wanting to do, but they just didn't have the capacity of writing a grant, and you could tell, the person was doing their best, but they weren't a grant writer. And I think that's what happens to a lot of small organizations when they go for the grant writing process, is they don't have that skill.
Sorry.
No.
So in my mind, it's like things can't be too abstract. They sort of have to be clear, concise, and concrete.
I'm looking at my co-grant writer friend here.
Yeah, and I know the first one that I ever wrote is one of the ones that Cathy had written as well, and I wrote it in grad school, and I kept thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. It is very much like writing a term paper.
It is.
They tell you everything they want to know, but you have to answer it like they don't know you. They don't know you. They don't know
Right.
you, your organization, and so it is very much imagination is wonderful, but not a grant writing. They
Yeah.
shouldn't have to imagine anything. It should be
Technical, dry, clear cut, no flowy language.
Yeah. You can be flowy. You can do that, but it still has to drive home a point. Like I had to explain Norman, Oklahoma. Somebody who
Right.
never been in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I did, and I talked about the organization that we were in, the surrounding organizations that would help us. And I drew the picture. I couldn't be dry and technical if I tried, and so it very much looked like I was. It probably didn't look, as technical writing. So you can use your voice. That actually, I think, strengthens it sometimes because you're an actual person who cares about this. But you can't be like, I think they'll get what I'm saying between A and B.
Yeah.
Like you have to draw a straight line between A and B.
That they're not in your shoe.
No, ain't got you.
Okay.
Nothing.
And public health or whatever, education may not be their forefront.
Yeah.
Their will. There were people that were reviewing grants for me that did not work in mental health or substance abuse or public health, but there's somebody that wrote an application to apply to review federal grants, and they got it. So the types of grants, there's federal. I named some of the big dogs: CDC, HRSA, NIH, SAMHSA, state. State of Oklahoma. I work for the state health department. We've done grant making before, but we've gotten large federal grants. We've done smaller grants out in the community so that our partners can do the work as well. Local, city, or county. There's money at the local level called CDBG. It's Community Development Block Grant Funds, and they set aside those. It hasn't gone away. They set aside money for projects, like it could be a homeless project, or when I worked years ago, we did one to the city to do teen pregnancy prevention classes, and it was approved. But it's called Community Development Block Grant Funds, and they usually have a committee of community folks who make the decisions, and it's a little less formal and organized than one to the feds, but it's still an application process. Foundations. There are several, Pot Family, Oklahoma City Foundation, the Center for Nonprofits. There are a lot of foundations, but foundations tend to be more regional. So if you're not living where the foundation is, it's a little harder to get funded, but I wouldn't let that dissuade you. I think we should apply. That's my motto.
Is there sorry for interrupting. Is there
like a website where you can access all this for free? Because every time I try to go look, they want me to pay to look at the grants that are
They
available.
sure do.
Yes.
If it's a federal grant, those are free. You can look at those, but, there's, the Oklahoma City Foundation for Nonprofits, I think it's called. They list grants on there, local ones as well as statewide or federal ones. I have my email on here at the end, so if you wanna email me, I can give you more succinct sources to go.
Thank you.
United Way, I've worked in nonprofits for most of my career, so United Way funding was really important to us. We really don't have that opportunity at the state level to apply for that, but small nonprofits, your organizations in the communities should definitely be a member of United Way and access resources that way. What do grants pay for? Well, just about anything sometimes. Some of them are a little loosey-goosey, or, I don't know if that's a word.
It works.
Now,
It's a
It is
word.
now. I said it in public,
And
so.
then-
Yeah, it works.
I didn't say it in my office, so I guess it's a word.
Mm.
So grants will generally cover eligible expenses, like they pay for staff, they pay for material and spaces. If you have to rent a space to run this project, you could write in rental costs for that. We wrote a grant. We were going to rent mobile units to expand our mental health primary care clinic, and we wrote in mobile home units because we didn't have enough office space. For nonprofits, we'll generally need to describe how the funds are used. Any grant, you have to say how you're going to use them, the services to be provided, what's your implementation plan? You get the money on January 1st. What do you do on January 2nd? You got to be ready to hit the ground running. The demonstrated need and impact. We're going to serve 500 mothers in the first 6 months. That's a lot. I don't know, but that probably would write that. I would write measurable things that you know you can do. And this comes from bad practice. So, the anticipated outcomes or goals. What are your metrics? What are you trying to measure with this? Is it that 90% of the mothers seen in the clinic will have seen an OB in the first 6 months of pregnancy? Like that's that's kind of an esoteric one, but like this many kids will complete this curriculum if it's in a school. Or this daycare will do this to get 5 stars. So it's very centered on what you want it to be, but I would always make sure that your evaluation starts when you start writing your grant. You can't bring in the evaluation at the end and go, oh, here it is. No, it's got to be as important as writing what's the first one called? I forgot the first page.
The abstract.
Abstract. The abstract, like the evaluation, have your evaluator, if it's somebody you work with or if you're hiring somebody, have them by your side as you're writing the grant. What problem are you proposing to solve? Like, what is it? Like, why are you writing a grant? A good example of this, when I worked at prevention, just in Jackson County, counties, a grant came through from SAMHSA for, I want to say it was like $1 million to methamphetamine prevention in schools, and we thought $1 million. Oh my gosh, this is going to be great. We can write this. And somebody on our coalition said, "Have you talked to the community? Like, is this something they want?" And we were like, "Yeah, they want it. It's meth. We want to get rid of meth, and it's $1 million." So we had some focus groups. Turns out they did not want meth education. When we did it with a lot of junior and high school students, we did college kids. We were like, this is who this is focused on, really. It was a youth prevention program. And they were like, it's really more weed and, fentanyl is really not, they were real hard. So like, well, we're not writing this grant. We're not going to pay for that. That's not our problem. Your need statement or your statement of need. This is our statement in Altus, Oklahoma. This percentage of young people say they've smoked a cigarette, by age 9. So is your program, are you trying to increase that age or to prevent harm prevention? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to delay first use of tobacco? Or are you trying to have complete abstinence? And I'm using tobacco because if somebody.
Take abstinence, just so we're all clear. We're all clear.
Sensitive to tobacco lead person, yes. In a winning grant proposal, the statement of need will really depend on what you gather. So how can you have a statement of need if you haven't talked to your community? You haven't talked to the providers. If this is a substance abuse grant, have you talked to the substance abuse providers in your community or the surrounding community? If it's one about nutrition, have you talked to the food banks? Have you talked to the schools or after school programs? So, just because like us in math, we thought it was a great idea. Like, we can write this grant, we can write this with our eyes closed, we know we'll get it. But the community was like, cool you just, like, wait, there may be a better grant further down the line. And there was. So, I mean, sometimes, and I have this on another slide, it's like, don't chase the money because it never goes well. What are some common use grants? A specific program or a project. Outreach, you can write grants to help you outreach and get more word out about your organization or your program. Capital fundraising, if I'm trying to build a new building for my clinic, and there's no way I can get enough in grant funds, whatever, and grant funds are kind of limited about that, then we would do a capital campaign where we would open it up to the entire community and, go after donors for a large building campaign. General operating expenses, like fringe benefits, you have to figure in fringe for your staff, some office supplies, if you have cell phones, if you have smart sheets, like if you have software, you gotta write that in too. Capacity building, let's say, I don't know that there are a lot of grants like that, but in the past there used to be planning grants and you would get a whole year just to plan. Like you would get, $500,000 just to plan. No, not very much anymore, but if they do, I tell you, that's a great way to give yourself like a whole year to plan what you want to do and get paid while you're doing it. Seed funding, if it's like you want to write a grant to help other organizations. When we got a disparities grant, gosh, 4 years ago, we were able to give 68 community groups small contracts to do the equity work we were working on. And, and we were able to make some of those awards up to $250,000. And so, it's something to be said about statement. You have a lot more flexibility in how you spend it than the federal money. Evaluation, I said, super important. If you don't have the evaluation muscle in your organization, contract it out. It's that important. Pay somebody to be your contractor, because the evaluation, the points that they rated in the grant are almost as much, if not more, than your main session, because they want to know, what are you going to do? Tell us how you're going to do it, and how will we know you did it? So, planning. Planning grants, they may come back. I don't know. They were great back in the day. I'm telling my age now. Identify the program activity. Don't chase the money. It never ends well. I worked for a nonprofit that was completely grant funded. And did we chase money sometimes? Yes, we did. Did it work out? It did not. We got the grants finished, but we had a bad taste in our mouth the whole time because we were like, we should have wrote this. We should have let the youth services organization write it. Why did we write it? Look for funding that aligns with your agency's mission and vision. If your organization does after school programs or you do nutrition and you write a grant on, we're going to do overdose prevention. Like, you got to help me as a grant reviewer understand how you got here. Is this something you've always been doing, or is this something new that you're adding? And do you have the staff capacity to do that work? You've got the capacity to do these others, but what about these? Compelling story that communicates why your grant proposal should be funded. When Leslie and I worked on that grant, it was $2 million a year for 2 years, I think. Is that the CDBG or was it
On the primary care one?
Yeah.
I had 2 million. Well, I had 3 million over 5 years.
2 million, 3 million.
2 or 3 million over 5 years. Yeah.
And you think, oh, that's so much money. No, it's not. It's so much money. And then you get down is like payroll,
Mhm.
fringe is for us like 55%. So you gotta put fringe on top of your salary. Indirect costs, which are like things that you like lights and other stuff, like administration to do the grant. Um, so knowing like how to spend that money, I can remember we got down, it was like the day we had to upload it, and we were in this smart sheet with formulas, and I'd be like 999, we're over, like 998, like trying to get it down to the exact amount, because we wanted to write for the whole 2-3 million. Don't write for 1.5 when they got 3 million.
Mhm.
We'll go for the gusto. How will deliverables in your proposal be measured? Is it like just counting? We are gonna serve 25 CHWs, and so you just count CHWs, or is it CHWs will learn these new skills, and this is how we will rate them. So you've got to be real specific in what your measurables are and how you're gonna get there. So the NOFOs, those usually come out, and it's just what it is. It's a application to tell you the funding is here, and here are all the tiny little things you got to read in it just before you apply. So there's an application process. What are the funding priorities? Look, if this is a big one spread over, multiple years, and they're telling you that at least, 50 states are going to get it, then, it's like, okay, but only 15 states, it's more competitive. And you're like, okay, we got to really write this right. The application deadline, if it says Tuesday at 11:59 p.m., that's it. If you got stuck or the uploading isn't working and it's not there by midnight, all that work. So our advice as grant writers is to start early enough that you can get your grant uploaded at least 2 weeks before the deadline. Because some of those systems that you upload, those platforms are wonky, and they are known to just like go belly up, and you can't upload your grant. And so you're calling and trying to say, hey, I'm here, I'm trying to upload my grant, but the system isn't working. And they're kind of like, well, sometimes they say go ahead and upload it, and sometimes it's, I'm sorry, you just missed this application. And what is your organizational grant history? Like, what's your history with writing? This first one? Okay. I know you've got a pretty good system, but your lead grant writer just left to take another job. How much muscle do you have in the organization for grant writing? It can't be just one person. Like, that's our grant writer. Marcika is the grant writer. So when she leaves, if we haven't shared that knowledge across and down in our department, then we're going to be behind. So we really have to, and it's worth it to our organization to pay for a grant writing class. It really is. If once you get that skill, it's yours. Nobody can take it. Where's the geographical distribution? Let's say you want to do this in Adair, or it's 2 organizations together, and they're going to do 9 together. You need to know what the geography is for that project, and you got to know about people in that geographical area. You can't just say we reserve and you don't have any institutional knowledge or anything about that area. And the average grant award size. Sometimes those are 500,000, or it could be like the rural health one that just came out. I think it's 100. Is it B, y'all? The rural health transformation. 100 billion. B. So I tell you what, that's going to be a heavy lift writing that. So be clear what you're trying to achieve. Have SMART objectives that are measurable. We're going to go over those. Everybody seen that SMART objectives. Develop a logic model where it goes, if we do this, then we think this will happen, and then this is how we get to Z. So you have to have a logic model to say, we're doing this because of this. Like, why are you focusing on 3rd graders? Like, what's your rationale? You have to be able to talk about that. Have somebody not connected review it, because I'm telling you, even though you have 6 sets of eyes on it, you're gonna miss something. You're gonna miss something. You always do. And so I always have somebody that didn't help write it look at it. and practice your elevator speech. If you only had 15 minutes to tell me about your project, what could you tell me? So SMART objectives, they are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Somebody give me an example of a SMART objective.
Conduct 4 catch my breath sessions in 2 different counties in the first 6 months to reduce teen vaping.
Very good. Seems like you've done that before.
Yeah, that's not really fair.
Here I am.
I'm pretty much,
A ringer in every class.
Right.
And why do you think this is important? Because I didn't be like, oh, I'm writing a grant. I'm gonna serve 300,000 people in Norman, Oklahoma.
Because if you don't actually serve those people, if you don't actually do what you've written, they'll be like, what'd you do with our money?
Right.
Give that back to
And
us.
they call that money back.
Oh, yeah, they will I can understand, they would absolutely take that money back, they'd be like,
Also, serving the what? To do what? And what's the point? And how
Right.
fast are you gonna do it? And how long are you gonna do it? If this grant is this long, and what if 300,000 people don't come through for 10 more years? And
See, this is the kind of reviewer I would get on my grant application, which I should have. Yeah. Because it's like, I've written grants where I was sure we got it. I'm like, oh, like you put it in the, upload it and be like, yes, we got it. This is so good. And they were like, we're really sorry to tell you that you were not selected. And I'm like,
and they'll send you out notes.
yeah.
Like, this should be stronger, or you missed the mark, or we didn't get this from this section, and you're like, yeah, you did.
Like-
But yeah, you get a little. I get Petty LaBelle. That's my petty name. Because you'll actually get notes, which is helpful if you're starting out.
Yeah.
But it also makes you want to go kick rocks for a little bit because you're like, I thought I really nailed that.
Like, well, we know what we meant by that.
Yeah.
But it's true. And you have to say, like, we're gonna do this in the first 6 months. Some of the work plans you'll get from your funder will be very specific. Like, we need just like how many this and that, what percentage, and you gotta be able to fill those in when you do your usually they're quarterly reports that have a template that you can use, but we work so much with grants in our department that it's almost like a second language. What is your mission and history? What do you do? What does your organization do well? I mean, that's the first thing I would ask. What do you do well? And what's the project's name? And who is it supposed to help? It's supposed to help 16-year-old girls living in this zip code in Oklahoma City. You gotta be that specific. Like, who are you solving? And what problem are you solving? And why should it matter? We were gonna solve that. But that's not what the community or the community leaders or the parents or kids wanted. And what is your end goal? How will you measure? And if your goals are too magnificent and too fierce, as I call them, you're not gonna do it. Like, start low. We always try to be conservative, like we're gonna serve 200, even if we think we're gonna serve 500. Like, we don't want to shoot ourselves. But and what happens if the person leading this grant leaves the organization and we've got to pick this up mid-place and something happens? So I always say,
Under promise, over deliver.
that's it. Like, they'll be like, oh my God.
Because say you're going to serve 200 people, and then you go to your final report, and you're like, I served 625. You're like, damn. Whereas if I said I served 625 and it came in at 400,
Yeah.
400 is still great.
But it's not.
But you didn't hit what you said, so that's a very big shift in how you looked at it.
Yeah. And what is your end goal? And do you know if you reached it? That's probably the most important. We'll know that this has been successful because blah, blah, blah. Why should you get the funds? What are your competencies? Like, do you deserve to get the grant? Like, is your organization ready? That's the other thing, is having capacity. Do you have capacity? Let's say y'all write this and you get it, and it's a $43 million grant. Do you have the infrastructure in your organization to do that, to do contracts, to, report back to the funder, like manage all this money? Like, you have to have, and it's kind of can't be this QuickBooks. Like, you gotta, like, when you get one of these really rare grants, you have to have, even if you have to contract out, like get a CPA to do it, you really need to have somebody that's good with the money. And that is not me. So I'm not in charge. Do you have other funding sources? Where's your other funding come from? Have you written other grants, or do you get like, just people write checks to your organization as donations? Or do you have any, trust, like somebody sets up a trust and your organization gets a little money each time?
I haven't, sorry, I haven't written grants in a long time, which is why I'm sitting in here, but I remember, and I know being on the other side for a while, I think it's really important that, like, especially smaller groups and nonprofits and those kind of understand that a lot of times they don't understand you're not just gonna get a check.
No.
Like, you have to put out some money and then you invoice them to get it back, and I
Yeah.
think that lag time for a lot of people.
If you're a small nonprofit that
Really
doesn't
hurtful.
have a ton of revenue,
Yeah.
money set aside, because you think about that, you might not have capacity, you're right, to pull off this big old grant,
And it can be 3 to 6 months before you get reimbursed for that. So if you're a fledgling nonprofit, you might not have the funds in the bank to be able to cover 6 months
Salary.
for salary before you get. Yeah.
Because if you get most grants are what they call reimbursable, like you spend the money first, then we write you a check. But if I'm Cathy's nonprofit and I'm little, and I got maybe, I don't know, 10 grand in my reserves, I can't carry payroll for 6 months or 3 months. While I'm waiting to get reimbursed. So there's a lot to think about. Provide a backstory, like what's the backstory? Like when we worked at the mental health center, I'm like, this mental health center has been like, I could just right off the top, I could just talk about it. And in doing that, you create an emotional response. The person is getting invested in the project as much as you are. Because somebody in DC looking at my little project, and they'll be like, oh, that's, but I think it's fantastic and it should be funded, of course.
That's one of the things where you don't have to be that dry technical, because since we worked at the same mental health center, almost everything we ever wrote was Central Oklahoma Community Mental Health Center was the first community mental health center that was ever established in the community in 1960 whatever by John F. Kennedy, and we had the whole thing.
After the community.
And so it was, yeah. And so we were like, let me tell you, look, we're historical, we're trailblazers, right? Every organization, you got something
Right.
where you're the first person, you're the only person that does this in your area, you're
Right.
the first person that did it, or you got something
You
that
got
makes you
something.
stick out. And so with that history, like, even if that's like, that's not really what I want to tell you about why I want this money, but let me tell you how fancy we are, how good we are, because everybody's got a strength. And that's what you lead with, because she's right. Like, if they're like, oh, like they really got their stuff together, it makes it a lot easier to then like give more credibility to everything else you're about to ask.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I knew there was a reason I should be here. I just push the button and all it. So.
That is really good.
I'm also one of the weird ones that really likes grant writing.
I know, I do too. So grants.gov, these are some, and y'all would get these, if you don't already have them, instrumental. That one's kind of pricey, but they do have a lot of applications in there. SAMHSA, HRSA, local foundations, local city government with the CDBG, community block grants, and there could be others, like, I'm not sure what those are, but TSET a lot. TSET, so everybody familiar with TSET, they do a lot of grant making too.
There's actually a flyer, I think, in our folder for the TSET grant.
Yeah.
Open options
Is it
right now.
oh, so competitive grants, these are, you have to sit it, most grants are competitive, you have to do it, although there are some where they say like, everybody that applies will get it, and usually those are like, $12. Yeah. And we're like, it's not worth that. Not that it's not big money, but when we have to pay the bookkeepers to do the $12, and we're taking out salary and all that, it's not a lot of money. So that's the other thing. Look at and see if that's an amount like $500 or $1,000. Maybe write it if you've never done it to get your feet wet, but The score is based on criteria, and usually the proposals with the high scores will win. Will be awarded, not.
No, we still did.
We still win.
That's okay. My sport.
We wrote a grant, to develop a curriculum for rural Oklahoma in teen pregnancy prevention. And they messed up, and that's when they still faxed, gosh, so they faxed it and said, you have been chosen. And we were like, oh my gosh, use some real team to develop this curriculum. You know, understand, go. And then we got another fax, sorry that I accidentally. That was-
You always hang this up, right?
They were like, we need to do those in the first quarter. And I'm like, I had to take the rest of the day off. Continuation grant allows a nonprofit to review its previously awarded grants. Sometimes you can do those as a continuation. You don't have to do a brand new application, you can just do continuation. Not all funders offer that. Some guidelines will tell you specifically they only do a one-time grant, one way. Pass-through grants is what it sounds like. Grants come through the federal government and usually a state or local government will disperse those grant funds out. But the thing is to know that that organization in their community has grant funds. Because sometimes it's like, well, kept secret. Only certain people that they want to direct grant over that. So keep your ears to the ground and listen to those. Because we know that local people solve lots of local problems and having projects like this at the community level, that's where you want to see the change. For the say this is like it's amount based on certain benchmarks. So like the rural health transformation, it's based on how much is your rural population will be part of the metrics in that. So some grants are like that. It's just kind of you just have to read through and see what they're asking and see if it's something that you feel like your organization could stand up. So here are the references, and here's my email, Cathy.Billings@health.gov. If you have any questions or anything, please reach out. This isn't like the end all be all in grant writing, but kind of a primer, just showing you where you can find things. We write grants all the time, so if you ever want to reach out to me or Karen or Leslie, we would be happy to help you. We might even help to review grants, so please keep us in mind. So thank you. Oh, questions? Any questions or comments? Anybody about writing grants?
So I don't know if we're about to write a grant, but I'm wanting to write a grant. So I work for Arkansas Memorial Hospital or a small rural hospital, and recently I just started taking one of our patients home. We had a jam, but it's only small hours. So two of our maintenance men have just been having to take these people home. We do have a hospital vehicle, but it's on its very left leg. The air conditioner doesn't work. So I'm wanting to write a grant to just get, doesn't have to be paid, just a car to transport these people either to the station or to home or I just don't know where to start or where to look.
I would. What counties?
Murray County, all for us.
Yeah.
You can then say the NC won't do it, the NCOs won't do it.
I just don't know where to even start.
I would call your Medicaid, Medicaid care because they do transportation now for all your Medicaid patients.
And that's Humana, Aetna, or Centene.
Okay, a lot of these don't have at all.
They're.
Yeah.
Let me do a little search when I get back to the office and see what I can, there may be a foundation that does something similar.
Okay, I'll give you a card.
Anything else, y'all?
You think, some of the grant, and again, I haven't done this for quite some time, but one of the last ones that I did was with Robert Wood Johnson. And so the larger foundations, I found that you still had to build those relationships.
do, yeah.
Like if you have a program manager or somebody that you know where that's leading that particular grant, like developing that relationship with them
You're right.
seems to help. Not just that you can ask questions and stuff, but sometimes even if you don't get that one, they'll have something else coming on and you built that relationship and you'll be one of the first ones to get the notice, or
Right.
that they'll reach out and say, what do you think about this?
Because if you can imagine, like, for any grant, like, well, I guess it's not stacks of paper anymore, they come in electronically. Hey, I'm old. You know, like, going through those and looking at those applications and honestly, after a while, you're like, didn't somebody already say they were gonna do this? Cause it tends to be similar, what they're gonna do, so you need yours to jump out off the page, like
Yeah.
Leslie, like, jump off the page and hit it right now. Kind of like, no, just pop them on the.
Yeah.
Because there's so many that need to be.
Yeah.
And how do I tell my story where it shows, we're the force, give us money, you know?
You think that's the same for like foundations? Cause I always have the foundations are usually smaller and have.
They are
specific-
smaller, but they do have less guardrails, just, I mean, we want guardrails. But their applications tend to be simpler, it may be only a couple of pages, rather than a CDC one that's 70 pages, you know? But yeah, like you said, you know, like trying to get to know somebody there and just like, hey, and I'm not above saying, hey, can we have coffee? I just want to talk to you about some ideas, blah, blah, blah. Get to know people in the grant making world, because they are good people to know, absolutely.
Ms. Cathy?
I know I have been told, by someone who, writes and reviews grants, saying that those storytelling is very important. And also if there's, foundations, go to that foundation's website and learn a little bit about them, see who their partners are, and really trying to incorporate that into your application as well. See about that, how you can connect, because that makes a huge difference as well.
And the other thing is, if you're writing one in your community, reach out to your legislator. Just let them know, hey, we're applying for this grant, want you to know, blah, blah, blah. Because usually if it's a federal grant, they get notified before we do. Your legislator will say, hey, congratulations on that grant. We're like, what? How do you know? Like, yeah.
The relationships be really important because I've never seen a grant that doesn't ask for letters of support from like other community organizations. But then you've got to have like, if I'm writing a grant for, teen services, I mean, it's helpful to have a letter of support from the school district and
Yeah.
from, other places that serve teens that nobody feels like you're just out here doing this Lone Ranger thing.
Right.
They love letters of support.
They do. And I've reviewed grants where like the main partner who's supposed to be, like, there's no support letter from them. I don't know if they thought it was just inherent, like implied, but there was no letter from that organization saying, ready, commit resources, staff, blah. And so I'm like, is that oversight? Like,
Did you tell them that you're using that?
that's what they know.